everyone, it's Pete here from the Pain Toolkit, and welcome again to the 1 minute interview. And today I've got with me a guy from the US, a guy called Tony Soxie, and he's in the state of Wisconsin. And what we say, Tony, is it Michigan? Is that the state, Michigan, and then you're in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it'd be kind of like a different, different region of it. We've got 50 states. You've got different, different provinces or whatever, however you want to call them.
Anyway, it's a good afternoon for me, but it's a good morning to you. So thanks very much for coming on the Pain Toolkit interview.
Well, you're so welcome, Pete.
Tony, we talk about 1 minute, but it's not, if you want to, it's about 2 or 3 minutes or whatever, when we get to the interview part. So don't feel pressured that you've got to try and ram all this, the information. It's really, in that minute, it's really the take-home message for patients and also healthcare professionals, your colleagues.
Yeah.
The importance of pain self-management. But let's get to know you a little bit more. So, sure. Okay, so you're a physical therapist. Can you tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself and how you sort of gone from that being treatment-focused physical therapist to where you're helping people to self-manage their pain?
Well, I'd be glad to, Pete. I've been a physical therapist now for 15, almost 16 years, practicing primarily in an outpatient clinic setting and dealing mostly with orthopedic-type patients. Really kind of through my whole career, I've really been just much more, let's fix them, let's treat them, let's kind of make them better and then send them back out the door. And I really kind of have to personally say it's been my own experience with persistent pain. And then also too, for me, just a little bit of a disconnect in that I come from a more psychological background and always felt there was a piece missing in the way and how I was treating these patients and understanding what was really impacting them. And just through, through working with your Pain Toolkit and some of those other great self-management programs that are out there, like David Hanscom's program, really have come to see that there is a whole constellation of stuff that we sometimes as healthcare providers don't see and don't pay attention to and aren't attentive enough to in those patients that are living with persistent pain.
Can I ask you, what do you find, I don't know, it's a message, so apologies for that. Let me just turn my phone off. Can you, oh, blimey, everybody's messaging me here and stuff like that. It's typical, isn't it? Let me just turn things off. So, I know, we're tricky people to deal with. I mean, I'm back in the day for me. I mean, I wasn't the most. I was a really tricky patient, I guess. So, what do you find the most challenging when you see people like me back in the day? Not now. I'm quite a nice bloke, but I was quite an angry guy. I was pretty depressed and stuff like that. So, but what do you find the most challenging on how to help us to turn that corners from going from that can't do person to becoming a can do person? What do you find the most challenging?
It's probably a combination of a few things. Part of it could be you, at least initially, maybe come from a background of a lot less activity, of just a lower activity level, and needing to get you moving again. Not even a specific therapeutic movement, just movement, period. The other thing I a lot of times will see in some of the bigger challenges, frankly, are some of the things where I want to call them like locus of control things. A lot of times what I've seen is patients are very pain focused, that is who they are, and that's what kind of runs and determines their life. And being able to help those patients see that they are so much more than their pain, and having them understand that they are so much more than their pain, and that doesn't have to control or run their life, and that they can be active, they can be vital people, even with their pain being present. That's, to me, probably been the biggest challenge sometimes is reshaping and reframing that in those patients' minds, that can and does have to occur.
How you describe that is perfect, because it's for me back in the day, and it is for, and also for many other people that I talk to in my travels, is that the pain becomes like the centre of the universe, and it's like the pain's there, and sort of everything revolves around that, you know, and that, but that is king, you know,
Exactly.
and it's like sometimes I always think it's like it's in a storm that, you know, when you're in the eye of a storm, it looks, yeah, it's pretty peaceful. But
Right. That everything circles around your pain and has to circle around your pain.
and I know I know I certainly lost friends, you know, because when they call, they talk to you like, all you can talk about is how much pain you've been in that day, sort of thing, you know, or what how crap your life is. So it's about how, I mean, I'm really lucky that I suppose that I'm bumping into people like yourself and Michelle, who I interviewed the other week, and all the other healthcare professionals that are been kind enough to do the interviews with me, is that how you know you've moved away from the medical model of care and moving into the self management model, which is about encouraging people to start off doing small things and gradually increase. I mean, why is it that you feel that when you was in medical school, did they teach you all this stuff, or is it something you felt you had to learn post attending medical school?
It's really honestly something that I've just learned as I've gone along, you know, living my own personal experience, and then kind of really is seeing that the model that I was taught really just never seemed to address that kind of disconnect that exists sometimes in the biomedical model.
Yeah.
As I said before, I come from a bit of a psychological background. That's what all my undergraduate work was in. So it's always kind of led me to question, there's always got to be something more to this. It's not just physical, there's always got to be this psychological or emotional component to things, because you can sometimes see when a patient comes into the clinic just how, you know, tense, how kind of guarded, how kind of defeated their posture might look. And then when you just talk with them, you can understand that they may be dealing with a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress or some depression about the situations that are going on. And being able to understand that existing in that patient and understanding that in some cases that has just important of a role to them as their pain experience, you know, needing to be aware of those things is just huge.
What would be your take-home message to yeah, the medical schools, really? Because, you know, because all I can see at the moment, I'm not saying all of them, but most of the ones that I'm aware of, or when I talk to you guys, is that they're still just teaching a medical model, and but they seem to be some sort of resistance, or perhaps there isn't time. I don't know. But what would be the take-home message to the medical schools on how they can include what you're doing within their curriculums for the doctors and the healthcare professionals that they're tutoring now and in the future?
I guess probably the biggest thing is just being willing to stop and take some time and listen to your patient. I can't tell you the value in just being able to do that, because you can find that just in sitting and spending some time talking to a patient for 10, 15, 20 minutes, that all of a sudden everything that you thought was working isn't working the way that you thought it was. And you can also find that other things they maybe are trying or doing maybe are working better, that you might be leading them down the pathway of medicalizing their pain when they really don't need that. And you're not going to get that by spending 5 minutes with that patient and just trying to say, well, we need to put you on this medication or do this test. That just being able to take that time, and that I can say is just something now that within the health system I work in, with other health systems I've started to be aware of, they're starting to put mechanisms in place to allow their providers to do more of that. And I think that's a huge step in the right direction, that they're taking some of the documentation needs or the regulatory needs away from those providers and maybe letting the ancillary personnel deal with those, just to really allow that physician to make that connection. Because I really think that's probably one of the things that's changed. If you look at the old traditional town doc, way back in the 1900s, you always had this doctor knew everything about everybody because he took the time to learn that about them. And, you can see I see 90-year-old patients coming into my clinic that are so robust, they make me jealous, because they just said, hey, I'm living my life to the fullest, and it's because I believe I can. And it's, that was just all set up in the right place at the right time.
So Tony, I'm sitting here thinking, it's like the other Joanna I've just been interviewing this afternoon. I was going to ask you to do like like a 1 minute bit, but from what you've been talking to me about this afternoon, it's like you've done that 1 minute message already. But just to sort of kill it a little bit, just to wrap it up, what would be your take-home message? So for those patients out there watching this, still wondering, well, what can pain self-management help me? What would be your selling message to them that they can do it? Go.
Well, probably the biggest thing is that you have to realize that you are so much more than your pain. You have so many more things in your life that can bring you joy, can bring you happiness and peace, more so than your pain. If you're struggling with it, find someone like myself, find someone that really believes that we're not going to be a fixer. We're going to be a guide. We're going to be an assistant through this journey that you have, and that'll be alongside of you, because you're going to have flares in your pain. It's going to happen, but having the tools in hand, having the support that we can provide is key. So that when those flares happen, to know that, hey, I have someone in my corner. I have someone that can support me. If I need to see them, great. If not, if it's just reaching out over a phone or an email message just to refresh those strategies, that's great. And from a provider's perspective, these patients can sometimes be some of the best patients you're going to ever have. They will give you such joy and such reward, but it's going to take time. It's going to take effort, and it's going to take work on your part to want to meet them maybe at that halfway point where they're going to come to you.
Man, I'll tell you what, that was spot on. I loved it. Fantastic messages. And if I was listening to that, from back in the day, I think, what, I feel more, because you're talking to me like, not from a healthcare professional point of view, but more of a coach, like a buddy, like a pain buddy, really, that, I'm in a crap at the moment, but I can move on. You're going to be there to, a bit like, back in the day, I was a driving instructor, so it's like being with a driving instructor. It's giving me some simple instructions on how to drive the car. And that's,
and that for me has really been the biggest thing, is just to say, and I emphasize this point to every patient that's in persistent pain that I work with, that this is a lifelong relationship now. Like it or not, you've got me around for as long as you need me around, and I'm going to be here when you need me to be here. But hopefully if we do this well enough and do this right, you're not going to need me all the time. And that I've given you the tools, I'll give you the awareness, and I'll give you the skills to go out and live your life to the fullest. And that's the biggest thing.
Tony, that's a fantastic message to end on. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to hit the stop the record button in a minute, but just start hanging around there for me. But thanks ever so much for taking time out to do the interview with me this afternoon and your morning. And whoever's listening to this, listening to Tony, because these messages that he's come up with this afternoon is 100%. So if you're a person living with pain and you're not sure what's where to go and whatnot, listen to Tony's messages, because that's really spot on. It's about finding that healthcare professional that you feel confident with to take that journey with you. So, but they are out there. Sometimes we have to do a little bit of searching. So Tony, thanks very much for your time this afternoon. I wish you well, and I dare say we'll be speaking again soon.
Sounds good, Pete.
Take care. Just stay there. while I stop the recording. Thanks very
Okay.
much.